Titan Z. There's Jensen Hong holding the Titan Z. Look at him flexing his muscle with that muscly graphics card. Are you gonna drop $3,000 on a Titan Z?
Oh, you know, we're gonna get two.
Two of them? You know, with four of those things, just four of them is as powerful as Google Brain. Remember Google Brain, that huge array of computers and all that sort of thing? Just four of these, one of these is like, what, 8 teraflops or whatever. Ridiculous. 12 gigabytes of memory on this thing. And Jensen Hong says it's for next-gen gaming and 5K gaming and multi-monitor gaming. 5K? I just got a 4K model to Wendell. We're already on 5K. It's like I can't stay ahead. It's like, okay, 4K. No, 5K. And as soon as I get my 5K monitor, it's going to be like, wait a second. No, 8K. I'm sorry, 8K now.
Well, then you just get another card. You double up, right? That's how that works? Just double up?
Just get two of these. Get two Titan Zs. I've got $6,000 I'm ready to drop on two Titan Zs. I want to know who is going to be buying one of these Titan Zs. I mean, the performance is going to be ridiculous, but I think the application here is going to be somewhat gaming. I mean, some people just need it. And if you watch Jensen Hong's videos, he said that the market is asking for this. The market needs more performance. People have too many mods on Skyrim, and they want to run Crysis at 4K for God knows why. They just have to have it.
I mean, it would be cheaper to wait a year and then buy whatever the $1,000 version is, or the $500 version, or the $300 version.
But then you got to wait a year, you know? It's like, what if you want it right now?
You would be paying $3,000 every year to maintain the same level of performance. I mean, you could splurge the one time maybe, but that had better be like a 5 or a 10-year investment. But there's no video card on Earth that's a 5-year investment.
You know what I think this is really going to be good for? It's going to be good for people who want supercomputing power. It's going to, you know, all the Russians are going to buy this and they're going to crack 128-bit encryption. That's what's going to happen. That's exactly what these things are made for. They're encryption cracking monsters. So
well, they've probably got a 64-bit. The 64-bit floats are probably gimped on this thing too. Those bastards.
I don't know. I mean, I want to play with one. I sent EVGA an email and I was like, hey, dude, can you send me one of these? I'm trying to build a spaceship. And all he wrote back was, lol, no one's sampling these things. Sorry. So, yeah, we're not going to get any of those things to play with. Unless I call up Jensen Hong 2 in the morning at home. I'll do it.
Yeah. Oh, it's not surprising. I mean, the market for these is limited.
Speaking of new and ridiculously powered parts, you know, Intel's bringing back some of the extreme stuff. They've got some overclocking parts coming out, and they've got a Haswell refresh, all kinds of stuff. Wendell, what are we looking at here?
There's some serious insanity coming from Intel. It's completely nuts. So first up is the X99 chipset, codename Wellsburg. We kind of already knew about that. That's going to be the 2011-3, which is not compatible with anything. Which is awesome for anybody that's on Socket 2011. It's like, don't be confused just because 2011 happens to be in the name. It's probably not going to work. But we don't
get all new everything.
Yeah, we don't officially know. So they're going to, I guess this leaked roadmap shows the Haswell refresh coming up May 11th, and this article has some of the parts that are coming out. Basically just a Haswell refresh. So that's going to be a chipset refresh too, like Z97 and H97 chipset, I guess. Most of the SKUs are going to get a clock upgrade of 100 megahertz. The Haswell nomenclature.
Not much at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot here. But haswell-e will also ship in the same approximate time frame, and that's going to be the high-end successor to Ivy Bridge E. But the X99 Wellsburg chipset and all that will appear in June, but Haswell-e probably won't come until September of 2014. And Devil's Canyon will probably appear at Computex in 2014.
So we're going to be there to give you guys a front row seat to all that stuff at Computex. We're going to have a lot of fun out there. We're taking a crew. Maybe you're going, Wendell. Maybe you just have to figure out all the passport stuff.
Yeah.
Think you're going to go? Yes. Yes, we'll all be there. That would be really awesome. Kane's going to be there. We're going to bring an editor, and we've got a super secret guest that I cannot tell you about, but you guys are going to be freaked out when you see who else we're bringing out there to Computex. I also wanted to brush up on this. One of the things that, you know, there's like 100 extra megahertz, so you get 100 extra megahertz. Well, a lot of these parts are K parts, and some of these parts are X parts, like extreme parts. So there's like a $1,000 extreme part, and the reports are that they finally brought overclocking back, and now we have overclocking on Haswell. I'm not going to, comment on that yet because I haven't played with it yet, but there was some real overclocking problems with Haswell in the first place. So apparently they fixed some of them, and now you can do a little bit more overclocking, so the K parts are going to be more attractive, especially if you're someone who likes to tinker and push things and get a few extra FPS or whatever, get a better score on whatever synthetic benchmark you're yelling about on 4chan. Yeah, I went there. But hey, you can do it with these new SKUs. And,
we certainly experienced that there's not much with what the Haswell, the overclockability, not really there. Let's segue to science.
Yeah, well, this kind of goes in between the two, because one of the problems that Intel's having is as they get into a smaller and smaller manufacturing process. Right now they're like 14 nanometers, and they're going to be going to 10 nanometers, but that's about the cutoff. You can't really get much smaller than 10 nanometers because everything is going to overheat. Tiny little copper things, they just cannot dissipate the heat fast enough. However, there's been an interesting breakthrough. They've discovered that graphene is that one molecule thick. Basically they're just using graphene, and it really helps with the heat dissipation. So now they may actually be able to crack the tiny manufacturing process of like 5 nanometers. Who knows? But that could really be the next step. What they're really going to have to do is find out a new material or find out a new computing mechanism, in order to get the performance even more ridiculous. But we talked about this last week, and I think the world's going to go into a performance per watt game instead of just an overall performance game. So that's going to be the next evolution as we sort of hit a brick wall with heat dissipation, and just things can't get any smaller without exploding. That's the big problem now. Anyway, that's an interesting thing on the screen. If you're a movie maker, you may be interested in this Kickstarter program, but I'm going to just leave it on the screen for a second so you can see it. That's what it does. It's pretty crazy. Tim from Timmy Tech TV bought one of these things. I'm not sure if we're going to get one of these things or not. Have you seen the Axis 360, Wendell?
It looks really cool. Although,
kind of want one. This should have been over in the hardware section, but yeah.
It's fine.
You could probably build one, right?
I would like, there's, I have, it's a sort of a side project, but it uses a parabolic mirror.
And what's that do?
Takes pictures of things.
All right, back to science. Multi-party quantum communication now possible. This is very spooky, and it's spooky at a distance, if you get where I'm going with this. So before, what was going on with the quantum entanglement, they were able to, quantumly entangle two particles, but they needed to be, in line of sight, not too far away, and they could do it with two particles. Now, in a new study, some physicists here at the University of Waterloo have been able to entangle 3 protons at 3 different locations. That's pretty wild.
This is really cool. This is actually paving the way for something like the Ansible, maybe.
Quantum
still
internet,
classical,
anybody?
Do what?
Quantum internet?
Well, it's still, there's still classical limitations in play here, but in terms of like super secure communications and things like that, this could be a breakthrough.
Well, when you say super secure communications, it's just if they just transfer data. There's really no way to intercept it because the data is not actually transferring anywhere. It's just the particle on each end is the same. That's pretty much the way of it, right?
More or less, yeah. But you still have some classical limitations because the data that you're getting doesn't necessarily make sense until you've got data from another channel to sort of be the other part of the thing that was communicated via Ansible, for lack of a better term. Communicated quantumly.
Let's go over to Switzerland and take a look at the Cybathlon. It's the first Olympics for cyber athletes, people who have bionic arms, bionic legs, exoskeletons, powered wheelchairs, and that sort of thing. It's kind of interesting. Switzerland's pretty wild, but right here it's kind of Deus Exy. I think that sounded funny, Deus Exy. There's even a mind race where they strap something on. Or what was that thing made by OCZ a couple years ago where you strap this headband around your head and then you think, and that controls the game? What was that thing called? Do you remember that thing?
It was an electroencephalograph, but I don't remember what their brand word for it was.
Yeah, just what's that EGG stuff or EEG stuff, right?
Yes, there's an EEG mailing list of which I used to be a member, and you can build your own, and you can do some really cool stuff with it.
Well, there's even an event in this. It's going to be at Zurich in 2016, but there's even an event where people sit down and put on like a hat and they race through a game world using their mind power. So it's a racing game with your mind. All kinds of interesting stuff going on there. I kind of want to go to that when it's going to be 2016. Maybe we can make it out to that in 2016.
That'd be
Check
cool.
that out. Yeah. I mean, other than just the regular sports, the brain stuff is pretty interesting to me. All right, in China, they have accelerated their thorium research, and they've told scientists, they told them, listen, you guys have 15 years to come up with some new thorium reactors or some new technologies. And now they've said, you know what, let's make it 10 years. By 2024, we need new technology right now. And the real factor here that's pushing them all is not necessarily the need for more power. I mean, everybody needs more power. China is a very power-hungry place, but it's the smog. They really need to cut down on the smog. It's so bad that people are dropping dead. It's dropping over on the side of the road. I kind of wanted to go to Hong Kong back in the day when I was playing Deus Ex, but now I'm kind of scared of Hong Kong. So
what with the lung cancer and all?
Yeah, just don't know what to do with it. But well, I mean, yeah, coming from Eastern Kentucky and then going there, it's like double dose of lung cancer. Anyway, so here's an interesting graph here. The world's nuclear reactors under construction. China has 28 under construction. Russia has 10, but like the U.S. only has 5 under construction. And most of China's that are under construction are going to be thorium. So, and I don't think any of ours are thorium.
I'm not really sure what to make of this graph because Argentina and the U.S. both have 5, and Argentina's is smaller. I can't graph today. I have the dumb.
Argentina's 5 are not as... I don't even know.
I mean, there might be some meaning there. It's just like Argentina's working on 5 reactors that could power a small school library, but our 5 reactors could power the entire continent. Or I don't know.
Wow. All right, let's talk about creating your own life, shall we? I'm going to be frank with everybody. Biology is not my cup of tea. I get more excited about physics and chemistry, but what is my cup of tea is when something crazy happens, and this is pretty crazy. So they've taken a step toward creating life from scratch. They haven't totally created life from scratch, but they are getting really close. And what's impressive here is that they modeled everything in a computer first, and then they used that computer model with the aid of some yeast cells.
Well, they had a whole bunch of undergrad students that were basically splicing this thing together. And so they produced a functional eukaryotic chromosome that was for yeast that had a whole bunch of properties that they basically were like, we know that this sequence of DNA leads to this and this DNA sequence leads to that. Let's string it together and put it in a eukaryotic chromosome and, hit go and see what happens. And they actually produced a living organism that actually has those properties and works like that.
I mean, the only other step that they could take is just to doing it without any aid of any living cells. Because right now, didn't they inject the chromosomes or whatever? Didn't they use a yeast cell that they already had, and then to basically to get it started, and then they created separate life from that?
Yeah,
is that what I'm reading?
It's a lot of designer modifications, over 500, to an existing life form. But the key here is that they modeled it in a computer to predict what its behavior would be and sort of work out a working formula. And then based on that computer model, they did it in real life, and it didn't, blue screen or go into an infinite loop or, whatever biological organisms do when you get the programming wrong. Cancer, I don't know.
Our yeast is blue screened again. Damn it. All right, we'll reboot and try a different RAM. What was it you said earlier? This is the... Your analogy on the exe file. Go ahead.
Okay. The life here it's a eukaryotic cell, and it's sort of noteworthy, or the reason that The Verge tells us this is noteworthy is because we've figured out how to do this sort of splicing and slicing and dicing with bacteria and viruses. And those are simpler organisms. This is a more complex organism. And so it's like we figured out how to compile programs for DOS, and we've messed with batch files and COM files before, but we'd never successfully pulled off an exe file, and now we've got exe files, so Windows can't be far behind.
If you guys want to look at the, if you guys, I thought they were going to work on Linux first. I can't wait to get myself some designer yeast, and we'll have a designer yeast beer made with synthetic beer. Oh, this is starting to sound scary.
One of the things apparently is the yeast reacts with estrogen. That was one of the designer things, and it's like, why would you want that?
Everybody wants that, haven't you heard? Anyway, if you guys want to take a look at the entire article, it's on sciencemag.org, and you probably, you'll probably get it if you're a little bit smarter than I am. So go over there and take a look at that. This is kind of wild. So there's now a new wind turbine that floats 1,000 feet up in the air because the air up there is a bit different. The wind speed up there is usually 5 to 8 times faster. So what's really interesting about this is you can deploy them anywhere. Let's say you're out in the middle of nowhere, there's a disaster or something like that. You can just go out with a bunch of these, and they've got a cord coming down to the ground. So you hook them up, you send them up in the air, they're generating power, and all of a sudden you've got power in a disaster zone like a tornado or something like that, or in a hard to reach area. If you want to live off the grid in the middle of nowhere, get one of these things floated up in the air. Helium balloon with a turbine. That's kind of wild. I'm not
going to be satisfied until there's a hydrogen version.
Hydrogen is just so much more fun for flying things. With this, and then with Google, Larry Page, and all those guys are trying to get all these balloons up in the air for the internet. What if 50 years in the future, everywhere you look, there's just something floating? We've got just stuff floating everywhere. That's going to get kind of annoying. I want to look out and see the view. It's like, there's the Google balloon, and there's the weather balloon, and there's the power balloon, and there's the advertisement for Nike shoes balloon. Oh, God, not that.
Get off my lawn.
You kids and your damn balloons.
Well, the good news is we're not going to have any helium by the time this matters, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, we're running out of helium, right? I totally forgot about the helium shortage. Don't we have any alternatives or something? Like
hydrogen.
And we got
problem with hydrogen is it can't wait to catch on fire.
It just loves a good fire. Oh, man. Let's talk about a couple video games. Now, coming up in just a second, we're going to talk about Game Developers Conference. We had Big Al Tech there on the floor looking around at different things, so he's going to give us a perspective. But right now, just a couple things we'll mention, and then we'll get into that. Civilization 5 mod. It's basically bringing all kinds of Blizzard All-Stars to the games. If you're a fan of all the Blizzard games and you want those in a turn-based strategy type game, this may be a mod for you to check out, but not for me. And then this is really kind of a good thing. Titanfall has a very interesting way to deal with cheaters, and this may be the coolest thing I've heard from Titanfall thus far. Cheaters really ruin the game for me. They ruin the game for just about anybody who cares about playing a video game, and they're typically, man, I think cheaters are sadists, or just 12, one or the other. Anyway, so what Titanfall is doing is if you're a cheater, they put you together and force you to play with other cheaters. So it's basically like, I hope the aimbot that you paid for is better than the aimbot that they paid for.
I enjoy the quote from the article. You can play with other band players in something that will resemble the Wimbledon of aimbot contests.
Yeah. That's probably one of the best ways to handle cheating, because then you're going to really know what it feels like to deal with a bunch of cheaters. You and all the cheat. That's going to take all the fun out of it. It'll be like, man, it's really, really awesome.
That is kind of fun. It would be fun. I mean, it totally doesn't tell you or anything, I guess.
Yeah. So I believe that's pretty much it. And now it's time to talk to Big Al Tech about Game Developers Conference. And then we're going to cut to some other recorded footage here now. Big Al, what's up?
Not much. Doing pretty well. How about you guys?
This is a lot of people, a lot of you guys out there. First time you guys have seen Big Al. This is Big Al. We'll probably have him on here and there. And you guys can check him out. Big Al Tech Support, is that what it is?
Well, yeah, I don't really have much of a website yet, but I'll probably be making something. Of course, you guys see me in the forums every once in a while and on the Twitch streams and whatnot. But yeah, just I'm working a little bit for myself and for another software company who's currently a startup, but we're working on it. So, but as of right now, yeah, just pretty much hanging around and love to help people.
Sweet. So you were at Game Developers Conference. We didn't get a chance to go out there. We're going to PAX East. They're kind of like close together. So I was like, I have to pick kind of one. So we're going to go to PAX East because it's local, and you're kind of local out there. So You got to play with the Morpheus VR. I guess that's the one for PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Now, go ahead. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Or ask your question.
All right, so we talked a lot about the Oculus Rift in the tech, and you know, we went kind of back and forth on the pros and cons of it getting picked up by Facebook, and I think we can let Kane chime in a little bit on that. But one of the statements that I was making is that, listen, Oculus Rift is not the first VR headset. It's not going to be the last VR headset. It's not going to be the best VR headset, and there's going to be more, guys. So stop acting like it's the end of the world here. Other than the people who feel like they got screwed over on Kickstarter. That's another story. But the rest of us who are just want VR, we shouldn't act like it's the end of the world. So, to that extent, how was Morpheus?
Well, Morpheus, I must say, they were very similar in terms of Oculus and, you know, just in terms of hardware, in terms of how they looked visually, not the outside, not how it actually looked, but
yeah,
it did look. It looked a little bit more, you know, cleaned up, a little more artsy, I guess. The Morpheus, but it was obviously just an alpha, and you know, meanwhile, the Oculus was definitely a lot further along. You know, it's coming out in July, I think, was the Dev 2 model. But in terms of how they function, they were very similar, which I was actually kind of surprised. I thought, you know, maybe Sony would have, you know, tried to pull something that would make it look a lot better. But like we were kind of saying before, we're dealing with what platform it's on. You have, of course, PlayStation 4, or you're using a PC. And I just don't think the current generation of consoles are really going to be able to drive the Morpheus to its full potential.
You know what was the resolution? Do you know what the resolution is?
I don't have the fact sheet. It's literally almost exactly the same to the Oculus.
Yeah.
They both, to me, when you have something that close up to your eyes, it's almost going to be impossible to not start seeing pixels, and it still seemed a little too pixely for me.
Yeah.
But once you get into it, you're definitely more immersed. The demos that Oculus was showing, I think, showed off not the prowess, but you know, it showed it off a little bit better than what the Morpheus did. The Morpheus had 2 demos, and so did Oculus. The only problem is the Morpheus felt a little more closed, I guess. Like you weren't able to do as much, I felt.
Right.
Yeah, of course, that's how the demo was built, but
yeah. All right. Well, there's options coming out. And before we move on from VR, you know, we talked about it, like I said, a lot in the tech. All right. So Kane, you know, VR, you didn't get a chance to have any input because you were working, of course. But one thing I really want to hear about is how do you feel about John Carmack working for Facebook?
You know, I kind of chuckled when I first heard about this. You know, John Carmack. I'm like, well, you know, I'm not sure if I'd rather him working for Facebook as the head of the VR thing, or working for Bethesda as like the whole id thing, and I think that kind of stunted him a little bit. But he didn't seem too bothered by working for Facebook. I mean, I guess I don't want to say that he took a chunk of change for this whole entire ordeal, but
of course he did.
Of course he did, because I mean, if I would do it if I was working, I'm like, yes, please. You want to give me $2 billion? Yes, I'll take a little bit of that. And then probably what really happened was that they were like, okay, so you guys are going to be tied into the purchase of all of this. So no matter what happens, you guys kind of come with the package deal. As you know, when you buy a big company like that, you don't just buy the intellectual property. You buy the people that are making the intellectual property. So,
yeah, man, you're buying their souls. That's what I saw. Like, they're not buying Oculus VR. They're buying Oculus VR and the souls of the developers.
I mean, but that's what always happens with any big merge like this. I mean, even, you know, I mean, I will talk left and right about the TouchStream Fingerworks being. I mean, it was an old touchpad keyboard that got purchased by Apple, and then what happened? The keyboard disappeared, and the iPhone came out. So all of your touch technology that Apple uses is built off of this old keyboard that I absolutely love and adore, and I've got one at home. But you know, it changed the dynamic of where did this IP actually get used and where did it go? Anyway, so you know, you got John Carmack, who's been very okay with this purchase, and then you've got Notch, who's like, He's actually been publicly called like a whiny boy, and he's like, yes, I am. I put 10 grand into this thing, not for it to be, some profiteering functionality of Facebook, not some. It was supposed to change the world, and now Facebook's got a hold of it. But you got to look at this as it's not so much that it's Facebook, that it is Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Zuckerberg is the person who's like, I want that, I want that, I want that right there, and I want to have it. So I'm going to take it, and I'm going to offer. I mean, he's going to leverage the fact that he paid for this with what was like $200 or $300 million actual physical dollars, and then the rest of that $2 billion purchase was all in Facebook stock. So, he's made Zuckerberg has made kind of a push into this VR market, and I'm like, I jokingly say, like, what is this? We're going to be having VR. We're originally going to be all these games. Now we're going to have what? Farmville in 3D.
Farmville is going to be so awesome in 3D.
My God, I can actually see me plant this. I'm going to plant something now like this. Yeah.
We're going to get back to the indie games in just 1 second. I think the ultimate thing that could happen through all this, the ultimate reality through all this virtual reality nonsense, what if Facebook makes this completely mainstream and then makes it okay, and then makes all the idiots at home understand it enough to the point where someone else can come along and make something nerdier, something more hardcore, something more niche, like Valve or another company, or even Notch. Notch, you've got a gazillion dollars in your pocket. You could get a bunch of guys together and start working on your own VR implementation. So what if Facebook makes it big and then everyone else can start making their own little smaller things? I don't know. It's all about ubiquity. Anyway, let's move on and talk about indie games, because that's what we're here to talk about. So interesting titles. Big Al, what did you see that was interesting?
There was actually quite a few. There was Goat Simulator, which I was actually surprised they were there. I didn't know what their, I guess their studio, which I guess is Coffee Stains. And I know Goat Simulator, I can see Kane's face palming.
Goat Sim, just what I want to be. I want to eat cans.
It's basically a physics simulator, right? I mean, it's not even, you just run around and break stuff, right?
You're bending physics. I mean, it's, you're going up a ladder. Next twitching. It's really bad ragdoll physics.
It looked like Game Bugs was a feature. Like they listed off that they were on. I was looking at the specs and they listed bugs as like a feature of the game.
Yeah, and I can understand people's like, oh, like, is this just a lazy title, kind of thing? Like, let's just release a half-finished game, and
watch people buy it.
Funny. And yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I got hooked into it. It was very fun to play around with.
Yeah, but here's the question: how long do you think it'll be fun for?
I think if there's what I can see, the huge like implementation into this is taking user-generated maps of some sort, because just a single map by itself, no, this is not going to last very long. But if you have people actually putting in maps into this game, like say maps from even, you could even put in like say Whiterun or Sky, some town in Skyrim, and then you throw down the Goat Simulator into it. I could see that there could be a lot of potential for the game.
I really want a deathmatch,
but you just have a bunch of goats hitting each other, which would be interesting to say the least.
Give them flamethrowers, man. I want goats with flamethrowers. I mean, it's ridiculous enough as it is. Goats with flamethrowers versus sharks with machine guns. Done. Sold. I'll buy it.
Laser beams on their heads.
Exactly. All right. What else did you see?
There's Zing, which was actually a very I can't say if it's called Zing. I'm terrible with Asian pronunciation.
Zing, X-I-N-G, probably Zing. Yeah.
Yeah. That was it was from actually 3 people. That's why I noticed with a lot of these indie developers is it's like these very tiny teams. And I know it's indie, so it's obviously not going to be, a bunch of guys working on something, but 3 people, 2-3 people, it's it's really funny, and what they can accomplish within about a year is impressive. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much it's a 3D puzzler, and they're also gonna have Oculus support, which now, like, looking back at a lot of these indie games, it's like, ooh, a lot of these guys are relying on Oculus, and it's just like, oh. Like,
do you think a lot of them knew anything that was going down at the time, or they were just completely blindsided? What do you think?
And now in hindsight, because I'm just literally looking at all this, I'm like, wow, why didn't I see that before? I mean, Facebook was there at GDC, and I didn't even go near that booth. I was just like, what are they showing Farmville? Like, I don't care. Um, and now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, well, okay, maybe there was something going on. But once again, when I was there was absolutely zero hint or clue that that would even be a thing. So, the problem is with indie, this is going back to indie games. I'm a little concerned about the indie market. That's just me, but there's so many side scrollers. It's hurting my brain, and really, there needs to be more ingenuity. That's just the major thing that I keep on seeing. It's just side scroller after side scroller after side scroller, and it's like they're fun. I get it, but
well, they're also easy to make. And let me ask a question, because when we were at PAX last year, it was like there was a million side scrollers, and almost every single one of them was a puzzle platformer, because puzzle platformers are like neat, and you can do silly things like move these little boxes around, and then you can flip upside down, and all of a sudden it reverses gravity. Oh my God, a new feature. Were there a lot of puzzle platformers?
Yeah, there were a lot of them. I actually noticed were taking, I mean, I'm not saying copying at all, but they were taking kind of the ideas of Trine, which I did like. And I saw a lot of that there. And that's why sometimes when I just go to the indie area that they had there, I was just kind of like, you know. I like supporting indie developers, but there's got to be a change. Like, I don't know. That's just me.
Well, let me offer a different perspective, because the problem right now, I think, is that maybe there are just too many games coming out, and that can be a good and a bad thing. It depends on the way you look at it, because the good games typically rise to the top because the users comment about them, and everyone goes online and gives them a thumbs up and shares them with their friends. But I think the thing is right now is it's just so easy to make a game that anybody can make a game, even if they shouldn't be making a game. You know what I mean? It's like now that we have like nicer video cameras, everybody's making indie movies, and most of them suck, but every once in a while you get something that is really amazing, like Primer or something, where a couple guys with $10,000 make a good indie movie. But I think that's what it is. It's just too easy to make games, and everyone's making them, and not everyone should be, but there's still some good ones in there, but you have to look harder to find them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, and I agree with what you're saying. I mean, the market is flooded. I mean, that's
the big problem.
It's the big problem. Market gets flooded. I mean, Valve, they have the whole greenlit system, but honestly, you see a lot of these games and they get greenlit, and you're like, really? Like, how did that happen? I'm not a game developer. I can't say how easy or hard it is to develop a game. I know it takes a lot of effort, but
well, I mean, again, to look at the other side of it, it could be a good thing if there's this many games. It just means we have more to choose from, and nobody's forcing you to buy any of them. So if they suck, just don't buy them. Anyway, you got to play Hyper Light Drifter, right?
Yeah.
Did you get to play it? Okay, that's I want to know how that one was.
Didn't really get to play it, but I was able to watch. Well, the booth was absolutely just packed because a lot of people wanted to play it.
Yeah.
It did look very fun. Once again, it's not a side scroller, but
looks kind of Zelda-esque.
It does have that kind of retro game feel, of course, and that's kind of what they're going for. And it's something that I could see myself playing, and I like the color theme, the music, the gameplay. It was a very solid game, and it was like something that was like, okay, finally there's something. There are games like this, but this is executed way higher and way better than a lot of other games that are
on like another level
this way. Yeah,
I actually backed this one on Kickstarter. It's probably the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. Being someone who loves Zelda, but also likes all the new elements they put in there, I think it's going to be a really interesting title if the story's good and if the fighting mechanics are done well. Did you get to see any of the fighting mechanics while you were looking at the game, or?
Yeah, no, people were doing a lot of they had, of course, a demo set up of the game. Yeah. I unfortunately wasn't really able to play. I was one-manning the entire thing, with the monopod camera, microphone, so I was just kind of a mess, and I didn't want to get into a bunch of people. But yeah, from what I could tell, of course, it's kind of got that pixely theme to it, the retro style. But yeah, game fighting mechanics, people shooting and it looked very good to me. I wish I did have a hands-on thing so I could talk more about it, but I don't want to say too much about it if I haven't really, hands-on played it.
I understand. How about Story of My Uncle then?
Story of My Uncle. Very different game compared to Goat Simulator. It's by the same people. I think it's Coffee Stain Studios, I believe is what they're called. And the whole idea is you find like a special suit that I think was by your uncle, kind of like a, kind of like the Half-Life, kind of suit. It gives you, gives you powers. Most of which are the two that they were showing. I think there might be more. One is a kind of a sprint and like a pulse thing on your hands, so you click and you pretty much can repel yourself off the ground and onto what seemed like floating rocks. So it's kind of like a puzzle game too, in a way. And then they also have like a light beam grapple, so you can grapple from rock to rock. I did actually enjoy it a lot. Unfortunately, when I was filming, my card reader got full, and I was like, crap. So,
oh, well.
Yeah, that was poor decision on my part. I was like, oh, just bring my one card. It's like, yeah. So I was rushed. I'm not gonna lie. The last day I was a bit rushed. But yeah, it was definitely a game that I'm looking forward to, and there's more out there. Everyone has their own, what do you call it? Your cup of tea. Depends on the person. I don't know. I'm just kind of sick of a side scroller. That's all.
Now, we already talked about some of the new game engines coming out in the last episode of the Tech. We talk about the the updates that are coming with the Unreal Engine, the indie developer support with the Unreal Engine, and also the CryEngine and the crazy indie developer support that those two engines are building in. Again, making it way too easy for people to create games. Hopefully, we'll see some good games, but there's going to be a lot of 3D games coming out. The two I want to talk about mostly, since we've already covered Unreal and CryEngine a lot, Unity and Havoc. Did you see anything interesting and new going on with those?
Unity, I'm trying to think. Yeah, Unity did have what I liked about a lot of these, companies that are coming out with these game engines for people is I was very happy with the price that they're throwing these at. They're around $20 or so per month, which is great for developers, and especially since this is, this isn't kind of joking around. What would you call it? Sorry. Not these game engines are not, kind of just little kiddie stuff. It's very well developed engines, and people are having, the source code to go do whatever they want with it. It seems like this could really be a good thing for, the next upcoming indie developers that are going out there. So for Unity and Havoc, they were showing a lot of physics engines that were pretty interesting. One of which was like, I think this was the Havoc engine, but they just bunch of rocks, stones, and like just populating the screen and just falling down like a waterfall. And I was just like, oh, it looked very, very impressive. I don't know what it was running on. That's the other thing. A lot of people weren't talking about. Oh yeah, what's this running on? Like, oh, it's anyone can have this. And it's like,
it's running on two Titan Z's, $6,000 only.
Yeah, no problem. Oh god, that's a topic.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's talk about all the hardware you saw there. Now you saw, AMD Mantle was there, True Audio. What else was there? Valve controllers, Steam machines, all kinds of stuff. Tell us about some of the audio you saw there.
Let's see.
Some of the audio hardware. I just read True Audio again. Yeah. So let's some of the hardware.
Let's see. So at the AMD booth, they were showing off. They're showing off essentially the power of Mantle and how much performance Mantle is, pushing out of cards, and they're showing off. This killed me, but it's like they're like, oh yeah, one 290X pushing 3 4K TVs, playing Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4. Sorry, and I was just like, It looked
running
very
on
smooth,
low resolution, maybe.
Yeah, and I was just like, for a 290X, I'm like, I don't know about that. That's possible. I couldn't say that I've benchmarked that because I don't have 3 4K, televisions, or just one.
Let me ask one thing. Were there a lot of games that are coming out that are going to be using Mantle? Because that's the thing for Mantle. If a lot of people use it, then maybe it'll be a big deal. But right now we only have a couple games.
they were showing off it's Lichdom.
Yeah.
Once again, I probably butchered that.
Switch them, yeah.
And I've been playing a little bit of that. Seems pretty fun. Other games, they had the name again escapes me. It's essentially just a space, kind of like EVE Online sort of thing, and they're kind of showing how much they can populate onto the screen. How much can go on and what little it takes to run it, even though the demo they were showing was like running at like 20 FPS, which was like, might want to use something that was pushing it a little further than 20 FPS because it was a bit cringeworthy.
Yeah, I mean, were they running it on an AP or something?
Yeah, I don't. Once again, they were very hush hush about what they were using.
That's weird. All right, so NVIDIA was there as well, and I know they've got G-Sync and physics and Shield, and they're showing off all kinds of different things. But the thing that I really want to talk about is ray tracing. Did they have any ray tracing demos there?
They were showing it, but they weren't. They were showing like what it can do and how helpful this is for developers and whatnot. And once again, not a I'm not a person who's a game developer, so I guess I don't see the full potential of this. Though I've talked to people or my friends or whatever who are very into this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, this could be huge." They were showing it off, not really a demo, which was annoying. It was kind of like this. Well, I don't know if you remember NVIDIA at CES. It was very similar in terms of how the booth was laid out.
Right.
They didn't really have any talkers or anyone speaking about it really. There's like, oh, like you want to come here and move this tablet around to see how this all works. I'm like, okay. But nobody wanted to get filmed. Nobody wanted an interview. So I was just like, okay, well, that's great. But
well, I mean, did they have any GPUs that were dedicated to ray tracing, anything like that? Were they showcasing anything that could do, ray tracing on board?
Honestly, they weren't. Like I said, they were pretty much keeping everything that seemed hardware very hush hush.
Right.
I know it's unfortunate. I'm guessing they may have been using one of their. I'm not too familiar with them, but their producer cards. Not like a GTX line of graphics cards.
Yeah, like Titan or something,
or not
Tesla.
Titan. I'm trying
Tesla.
to forget what they're called. Yeah,
probably Tesla.
And so anyhow, unfortunately, a lot of the people that were there didn't really seem like to know what they were talking about. I guess they were very afraid to say anything. I guess I shouldn't say they didn't know what they're talking about, but
well, yeah, they usually hire
people.
Yeah, they usually hire people that are like just
show
people who just show people, so they don't actually know everything and they're not allowed to say anything.
Yeah, I know. It's unfortunate, but that's unfortunately what I was stuck with for a lot of these people. But
all right, well, how about the Intel booth? What's going on over there?
Intel, they were showing off, what was it, RealSense, which is I think one of the new things that they're trying to implement, like voice commands, and I think they were talking possibly about using motion tracking and whatnot, but to essentially control the game the way you want it to happen. So like you could say like, oh, this guy moved to point A, stuff like that. It seemed a bit buggy because I like tried doing a voice command. It was like, you gotta say it louder. I'm like okay, it's just like it just seemed like a really poor decision to have something that required audio in such a loud area. But when it did work, and it was something that could get very immersive. We could actually tell someone to move somewhere within your game is a pretty cool feeling. It's like, oh, like I'm actually controlling this. Like, I'm not just clicking the mouse to get him to point A and him to point B. You're actually telling him. So I think for like multitasking stuff in games, that could be really interesting. And then they were also showing driver support for OpenGL.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Yeah.
It literally, like I said, that's all they're like, oh yeah, well, we have our support or whatever, and people were just huddling all around one screen, saying, oh, like, what's going on, and the speakers talking or whatever. So it was a little difficult to hear anything, and then I left, came back, and they're like, oh yeah, we're just talking about how Intel is AMD's kind of been more with OpenGL, and we're trying to get ourselves more into the market for people who use OpenGL, especially,
it could be a big deal for Linux.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot, I don't know. They just Intel was very lackluster as well. I hate to always sound like everything was lackluster, but to be honest, GDC this year was a bit lackluster, I suppose.
So it's probably a good idea that we're going to PAX instead, I guess.
Yeah, I think you guys are probably gonna have a little bit more fun at PAX. They were not saying much, and they were, just kind of showing off what they had. That's about all I could say.
I guess the last couple things to talk about, we got some ARM games and Snapdragon. I'm not sure how the Qualcomm Snapdragon processors and that sort of thing now have support for the Unreal Engine 4. Did you see that running?
Yeah, I saw it running. They had like a demo of it going on, kind of like a how would you call it, like a test bench. Like you usually see, a test bench with, like, you play like BioShock or whatever, and they have a test bench within it. So it's kind of like that.
How did it look compared to like the PC version of the Unreal Engine 4?
You could see where some things were cut. I think they focused a lot on lighting, which did actually make it look very reasonable, and I think that maybe kind of covers up some of the, not so powerful features of the Snapdragon, because it's a powerful processor, there's no doubt, but, they're showing it in tablets and whatnot, and they're like, oh, well, it has support for 4K, which was interesting, but at the same time, it's like, it's not powerful enough to really run it on the 4K, monitor. They have the, tablet hooked up to the 4K monitor, and it's just like, okay, like, it runs, but it's not very smooth. But for what they had, I thought that was pretty interesting. And once again, the people there did not want to say a single thing to me, and I was just like, really? I was like, I want to know about your processors, and they're just like, no, I don't know that much, I can't tell you. That's like what, he was young, so I was guessing. It's like, okay, maybe doesn't want to say a lot, but yeah, he was just like, no, I don't know that much. I'll just show you a little demo. I'll move the screen around. I'm like, okay.
That's when you grab him by the freaking throat and you're like, you will tell me.
Tell me everything. Start force choking them.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you got to do.
And I think the only
do the right thing.
Yeah. Kane hasn't been in this entire video, but I guess it's all been.
I was just gonna say, I feel bad for Kane. He's this guy's head
what?
on.
No, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm just saying, but that's bottom line is that these guys are at this show and they're like doing the right thing.
They're like, I'm not allowed to say anything. I've just been hired. I'm an actor or something.
This is not the droids you're looking for. This is not the processor you're looking for. This is not the. You know what? Why are you even here?
I was asking the same question myself.
All right, is there anything else we need to talk about? Before I end this episode, we've got Kane here. We probably could talk about something that's just even bigger than Game Developers Conference. We've got PAX coming up soon. We've got Computex coming up soon. We have a lot of ridiculous things coming up soon.
Yeah, I would kill to go to Computex, but I don't think I'll be buying a ticket to go to Taiwan anytime soon.
Well, Kane and I have a very secret project going on in Shanghai that we're not going to talk about just yet.
Excellent.
You're going to go to that, right?
Yes, I'm totally down for this.
Okay. Good. All right, I guess I'll go ahead and do the outro.
We are going to do the right thing.
All right, guys, so that was our extended gaming segment. Thanks to Big Al Tech and his coverage at GDC. Gives you guys some perspectives since we weren't there ourselves. But we are going to be at PAX, so you get some more up-close and personal perspectives there. And, yeah, let us know what you think of this video. And we don't really care or anything like that. It's not like we're going to change our ways. Yeah, click on some of these links. So, no, they're over here. Click on those links. And, so, I don't know, Big Al Tech, you can give the goodbyes. Just the ending salutation. Put you on the spot, I'm sorry.
I guess I'll see you guys in the forums for those who know me. And sorry I wasn't able to give as much insight as you probably wanted, but that's just how GDC went. And, yeah, I'll see you guys in the forums.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay, to be perfectly honest with you guys, I think the Oculus, when I saw it both at CES and when I saw it in Australia, it's a piece of shit.
I was more impressed by True Audio.
I was like, that's kind of dumb. I like the audio. This video is, I really think it's shit. I think it's absolute, I don't like it.
Well, why didn't you say that during the damn thing? I'm going to put this in there. This is important.
Okay.
We require a rant.
Yeah.
What? I don't like it. I really, I found it to be completely boring. I was like, okay, cool. The true audio.
Okay, hold on. That's just the game. That's just the game. The actual Oculus Rift itself, the experience, the way it looked, how did that feel?
I thought the Oculus Rift was kind of shit. I mean, really, I mean, I got to use it actually and played Team Fortress 2 when I was in PAX Australia, and I was like, this is kind of dumb. I mean, I swear to God, I'm playing computer screen in front of me, Oculus here, and I ended up like sitting like this, playing, and I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't even realize it, and when I finally took it off, I'm like, why am I looking way to my right? I'm looking at the crowd behind me. Hey guys, look at me. I'm playing with the Oculus. You're totally jealous that I'm sitting here playing this, but I'm sorry, but it's kind of bad. Everybody's like, it's the idea is great. What they're trying to do with it, sure, but I didn't find it to be high enough resolution to really make me really believe. I mean, I got to play with some of the old VR stuff from like the mid '90s, and I was like, that was really crap. But this is it's not that much of an improvement. The motion tracking is phenomenal, but the actual visual display, I'm like, I would rather use Google Glass.
Well, you know, now that Facebook owns it, they're going to take it and they're going to turn it from the Oculus VR, and they're going to make it way better, and when they're finished, it's going to be almost as good as the Virtual Boy.
Damn right. The Virtual Boy was amazing. It was like red. I'm waiting for Farmville 3D, like Oculus Farmville. The last thing I want to do is be like, I'm going to plant some shit. I'm going to grow some stuff. Yeah, look at me. I'm like planting things. And I'm going to wait 12 hours to watch my stuff grow.
Yeah, I don't see how Oculus in a 2D game is gonna work out too well.
The
No.
Facebook thing is great for Oculus because it means they now have like a financial backing, and they've got like a giant, a giant monolithic company that's going to back them financially. But I'm not impressed. I really am not impressed with it. I mean, I've stopped and I really thought extensively about what I thought and how I felt about my experience with the Oculus, and the audio, the true audio stuff at CES was phenomenal. I thought that was because that was really cool, because that really kind of immersed me. But graphically, it was just like I'd rather have Eyefinity with 3 monitors in front of me, because then I could just sit there and stare and be like, "This is so much better than the Oculus."
Yeah, well, when we were at CES, that was. I remember that when I had the whole entire thing on my head and I had the headphones on and everything, it was a true audio demonstration, but they were using the world of, you know, inside an Oculus Rift to like really give you a fully immersive experience. And I remember taking the thing off, and like the first thing in my mouth was like, well, true audio sounds awesome, but the rest of it was like, it was kind of whatever. But I was way more excited about true audio than the Oculus when I put it on. So yeah, I didn't really like it that much either. So there you go.
And it was, you know, after 5-6 minutes, it's a little disorienting, and it's not graphically where I would want it to be for VR. I mean, like I said, comparing it to the stuff from the 80s, 90s, it's like, yeah, it's 1,000 times better, but I'd rather stare at my monitor.
You know, I'm going to make a statement right now, and I don't like to make predictions that often unless I know I'm going to be right, but I don't think VR is going to take off until we have ray tracing and VR at the same time, and then it's ready. All right.
I'll go with that, at which point then we're going to end up with, like, cybernetic people that we're going to be controlling remotely to do all of our stuff, like in that weird movie,
with Bruce Willis?
Yeah, with Bruce Willis, that one.
Not Bruce Willis, it's with Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis? Yes.
Yeah, Bruce.
The movie was kind of swill.